Don't miss.
Don't touch me!
Look! A new one!
2022's here, and so's a long list of incredible shooter titles that are sure to keep you at the edge of your seats. Now, some of these games are already out, but most of them are still anticipated, and when I say anticipated, I mean highly anticipated. As of this recording, there have already been a whole bunch of much-awaited games out, but we are still in February, so there are literally 10 more months of solid titles that await us. This list, like several others I've made, isn't in any order and features games that are liked by me and several others. I'm probably missing out on a whole lot of titles that are on their way this year, but that's how lists of 10 work. You get some, and you lose some. Anyway, without further ado, here are my picks for the best shooters of 2022. Scorn. This one might have flown under your radar, but Scorn's a game that will catch your eye rather easily when you do end up seeing it. It's a first-person horror title that throws players into a nightmare of a world where everything is full of flesh, bone, and steel. We're still not too sure what the premise of the game actually will be, but we're pretty sure there's a lot of gore and Lovecraftian themes involved. There are no details on that front, as the development studio is giving players a world where the goal is to explore and figure out what's going on as you progress. A neat way of promoting the plot, to be honest. With that said, the game's set up in a non-linear map filled with enemies and puzzles to solve. Players can also expect a horror survival element to this game, since the developers have stated that Scorn will feature limited inventory with ammo management, which means that players will need to decide if they should waste their ammo on an enemy or potentially save the resources for whatever else may lie ahead. Looks pretty interesting, this one. Shadow Warrior 3. If you've ever played a Shadow Warrior game, then it's well worth going back and enjoying them today, because the third installment of the franchise is soon to be released. There are energetic and fast-paced games where players are tossed into a wacky protagonist named Lo Wang as he goes through different misadventures. Being a shogun, Lo Wang is armed to the teeth with weapons and can maneuver around the battlefield with ease. Previous games were a gore-filled mess with crude humor and strong language, which we're expecting with the upcoming third installment as well. This time around, we know that Lo Wang's forced to fight back a dragon that was unleashed from an eternal prison. It's bound to be his greatest battle yet, and he'll need enough firepower to hold back an apocalypse. Currently, at the time of this recording, the game's slated to launch sometime in March. Destiny 2: The Witch Queen. Destiny 2 isn't a new game, but Bungie is keeping their Destiny 2 game supported through a series of updates. In February, players will be getting the 6th major expansion for the Witch's Queen video game, and while the game expansion was supposed to come out last year, the pandemic happened and, well, the rest is history. It will be released this year, giving the title the 5th year of extended content to enjoy. Overall, the focus is on the Witch Queen, the sister of Oryx, who was the main protagonist from Destiny's The Taken King expansion. Although players can still expect plenty more content to be added to the title with this expansion. This includes new locations, weapons, gear, and even a raid.
You seek passage. I can aid you.
Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. I've mentioned several times before my love for the Borderlands franchise, and with this one, I really can't set down. In 2021, we got the big unveiling of a brand new Borderlands game spin-off, and Gearbox is bringing out an installment based around the chaotic and fan-favorite character Tiny Tina. If you haven't played Borderlands 2, especially the Tiny Tina's Assault of Dragon's Keep DLC, then you're missing out on so much. Heck, go play all the Borderlands games if you haven't. You've got no idea how much you're missing out on. Players will go through a high fantasy FPS filled with battles and over-the-top escapades in this game that I'm sure is going to be awesome. This game also features an incredible voice acting cast of Andy Samberg, Wanda Sykes, Will Arnett, and several others. Similar to Borderlands, you can expect that there's bound to be plenty of loot to gather up along the way. Gearbox created the game with the inspiration of old-school tabletop D&D, and while there are guns, we know there's also some spell casting involved. We're still waiting on the premise to make its way out into the public, but we do know that players will have their own character to take control of rather than being Tiny Tina. Fortunately, Tiny Tina's Wonderlands was developed to allow anyone to play the game, so you don't have to play any of the past Borderlands installments to enjoy Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, but go and play them anyway, okay? With that said, if you're a fan of Borderlands, then you'll likely find quite a bit of enjoyment with this game. Tiny Tina's Wonderlands is out on the 25th of March. I'm definitely going to be marking that date in my calendar.
We are already out of the nests.
Incoming! Clear the area!
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Extraction. The legendary Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six series has received a new video game installment this year. Initially titled Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Quarantine, because you know why. The game is now Rainbow Six Extraction. With that said, this is another team-based tactical shooter on the same lines as Rainbow Six Siege. The difference is that it's a PvE type of title where players are working together in the hopes of stopping some kind of alien parasite. It's this parasite that proves to be hostile against players, and if infected, players are only given so long before they're a lost cause if they're not healed. This tactical shooter has slipped by in 2021, but fortunately it was released on the 19th of January this year, so go and get your hands on it right now.
You pay for that.
3 against 1? I like those odds.
Count again.
Sometimes you have to become a monster to stay human.
Dying Light 2, Stay Human. This game's already out and it definitely looks like one of the games of the year. The reviews have been phenomenal, and why wouldn't they be? This game is fantastic. Dying Light 2 takes players back into a world filled with zombies and takes place 15 years into the apocalypse, where much of humanity has been pretty much cut down to nothing. Only small areas remain for those who wish to seek refuge, but oftentimes it comes with conflicting factions. In the middle of the chaotic battle for power is our protagonist. Outside of exploration and fighting off the zombie threats, players will deal with these factions however they see fit. There's more freedom of choice than the first title in going about missions. A big part of the development for this sequel was making parkour and combat more connected. Players should think of the world as their playground. As you get more used to moving around the area, there should be the ability to get creative during combat. Whether it's vaulting around the area with some exceptional parkour while lining up shots or getting up close for some intense melee, the game gives you the freedom to choose. This one came out on the 4th of Feb, so go and get your copy now. Redfall. Arcane Studios just came off Deathloop and they're following the game with Redfall. If you think it's a little too quick, then think again. This is an action-adventure game taking place in the town of Redfall, Massachusetts. The premise is currently still relatively kept under wraps. We just have a trailer, but we do know the basic plot looks like there's some experiment that's unleashed a legion of vampires onto the town. Pretty neat. Players will be picking through a series of characters to take control as you battle against the bloodthirsty, sinister creatures. Right now, the game looks like it's a new take on Left 4 Dead and Back 4 Blood. Redfall will support multiplayer cooperative gameplay, but unlike the games referenced, we're dealing with vampires instead of undead zombies. Arcane Studios will be pushing the title out in September 2022.
Да пошел ты.
Stalker 2, Heart of Chernobyl. Now, this one is gonna be big. Stalker 2 was something the developers tried to get off the ground in the past, but while development was going on for this title for a small period, it did eventually end. Now, it's back in development, and there have been some details about what to expect when the game launches. We know that the video game will again put players into a bounty hunter type of role, where you'll head into the zone, an area heavily radiated over the Chernobyl incident. While players seek out loot and information, they'll find themselves being sought out by mutated hostiles. Players are stepping into the shoes of a stalker named Skiff. Apparently, your actions will shape the history of the zone. We can expect an even more hostile area to deal with. Just like past games, this toxic zone will release different horrific creatures your way to battle against. We also know that this is going to be a game using the new Unreal Engine 5, so that should make for some thrilling visuals as well. Likewise, there's said to be a multiplayer, but this mode won't actually arrive at launch. Stalker 2 is quartered to be out on the 8th of December this year.
And then it's total yap his dat, son. That's what.
Atomic Heart. Atomic Heart's been on everyone's radar ever since they dropped a trailer back in 2018, but very recently they put out another new trailer this year that's confirmed it's gonna be arriving soon. We've been waiting to give this game a try, but it continued to be labelled as a to-be-announced release so far. Regardless, from what we've seen so far from Atomic Heart, this title takes place in an alternative reality where the Soviet Union continued to thrive while also making a ton of technological advancements. Players are stepping into the role of a KGB agent that might be mentally unstable. You're tasked with visiting a remote facility that's gone quiet, and as a result, you'll need to step in and see what's going on. We've seen plenty of combat, but the development team over at Mundfish have been pretty quiet in showcasing their video game. It looks like there are some different mechanical creatures and supernatural elements you'll be facing, but again, we're waiting for more information on that. Hopefully, we'll get our hands on the game by the end of 2022.
What you've found, it's the key to unlocking everything.
Starfield, a new IP from Bethesda. Yeah, You heard that right. Starfield's one of the games that's been on quite a few players' minds, and it's been just a rumour for over half a decade. Now, it's finally coming to fruition. We knew that Starfield was set to come out first before we finally got the next major installment to the Elder Scrolls franchise. Initially, this was a game that was going to release on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series XS platforms, but since Microsoft went in and purchased the studio, Starfield has now become a Microsoft exclusive. With that said, this is another narrative-driven RPG adventure set in the future. So far, we know that humanity has colonized space, and we're taking the role of a space explorer. Players will likely meet with different NPCs across various planets in this epic journey. Right now, the game hasn't received too many marketing materials, but Bethesda's aiming to launch this game on the 11th of November, giving it an 11/11/22 release date, which is pretty cool. That's of course if we don't see a delay that pushes the title out. We really can't wait to get our hands on this one, so fingers crossed. That's it for our list. Tell me, which are your favourite shooters of 2022? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this content, then do consider subscribing to the gaming region and hitting that like button. You've got no idea exactly how much it helps us. As always, see you in the next one. Peace.